Welcome back after a wild game one between the Pikarinoobs and the Papis. Gormizer, talk to me a little bit about what changes there. You look at the early games. You highlighted Rapio going into that game. Gets first blood, gets second blood, assists on the third kill of the game, but that was kind of the extent of it.
He did everything he needed to do early on, which was make sure Hell couldn't really do much to get online. He was making sure Cerberus was going to be online. There were a couple of rotations earlier from Cerb than we typically see out of solo lane, which might have been more questionable. He actually ended up getting picked off, and that was one of the bigger kills for the Papis early on. But he just started to fall off. His target call was still proper. He would go for the Kukulkan anytime the Gold Fury was up, like I know who I need to target, I know where I need to get to. And then he would just get zoned away. They wouldn't get the kill. They wouldn't find the follow-up. And, I mean, he had the early brawlers. He was doing everything to set it up. I think it just eventually, especially as the team fights came online, the sustain was too much to deal with.
Well, I like the way you kind of word that, because throughout the first, 15 and a half or so minutes of this game, gold-wise, relatively even, but I think objective control through and through just better from the Papis this game. I mean, you might trade a kill here, but I think they got, if not all of the Gold Furies, or the Furies rather, they got most of them.
Yeah, that one of the things, I think I wrote it down very early on. They had very good calls to go ahead and grab Gold Fury and things like that. But then just their knowledge base of where players are going to be, what the right call would be. There was a moment, and this is probably the absolute nail in the coffin for Pikarinoobs, had to be when they go Gold Fury after sieging the left-hand Phoenix. Papis run in, grab the Gold Fury. Most teams, they get their Gold Fury, they're like, cool, sweet, let's back. We just got a tier 2, let's spend. Papis were calling for the Fire Giant. Like, they walk over there, and they catch out Pikarinoobs, push them away, win that fight, and take the Fire Giant. And that was just that moment of, again, final nail in the coffin.
Well, I think it'd be a bit of a disservice if we, obviously you see him on the replays here, Dracomariano on this Odin.
He did real well.
Yeah, he had a pretty decent game, didn't he?
He, last one I wrote down was 7-0-5, but 6-0 earlier in that game. Didn't die, as far as anyone's concerned. Like, I mean, he was able to go through, control a lot of the lane. A lot of what we said about Odin going into that game kind of came true. Really good cages, really good long-range stuns. And the fact that there was no focus on him, they weren't able to really catch him out and burn him down. It's just, Papis had too many high-priority targets. You need to kill Kukulkan because you want to get rid of the objective secure that he has. You need to kill Hell because she's healing the entire team. You need to kill this Odin because he's setting up everyone else for all these kills. And then you just can't choose who you want to go through. It is a very good target diversification from Papis.
Well, I know Aggro highlighted this a little bit towards the end of the cast there. Talk to me about what role that Hell played in this win here for the Papis.
Yeah, so even though there was Divine Ruin, there was Brawlers, there was a Curse Donked on the other side, they just couldn't stop the healing from coming through. And that was really the biggest point. You had a lot of damage coming from her and Kukulkan, as well as Warchi, because that Chernobog was rotating all the time. And then if they just needed to, they back up a few steps, heal everybody around. You aren't doing enough damage to burn through those health bars once, let alone to get through them a second time afterward. And so Papis could just outlive every single member of Pikarinoobs.
I'm sure Papis are happy with how picks and bans went in game number 1. We'll have to see how teams adapt moving in here to game number 2, picks and bans. And I know that the bans relatively, I don't think, left much to the imagination, kind of what we expected.
Yeah.
Do you think Yamoja gets through at any point here? Do you think she's maybe just perma-banned consistently? That's hard to say. I
for
mean,
my
if you
hopes
have a strategy,
and my dreams, or for like actual, hey, we want to win the game?
Why don't we do hopes and dreams first?
My hopes and dreams is that one day someone gets to play her and we get to see her. I love playing Yamoja. Like,
she's fun.
I almost always end up in support. I love playing her over there. I've seen, like Weekend loves playing her in the jungle, so maybe she's got some versatility to her. I know she's got really good healing and really good CC, and that's all I need when I'm trying to set up everyone. But it's also that reason that in competitive play, you just say, hey, no. Especially if you're second pick. Like, you will never see whoever is first pick ban her away because that's such a good pick for you. You want her to come through. And so it's almost always going to be sitting over there, either where she is now or where Persephone is.
Well, it tends to be right. Yamoja immediately followed by that Persephone. Odin's the third ban here for the Papis. Camazotz, though, he's released from ban prison for the first time in this set. What does he bring to the table? Why do you maybe first pick him?
Honestly, I think he's going to bring a lot of aggression. The only thing I'm wondering is if that's going to be worthwhile. We saw what Rapio was able to do. A lot of good setup for the Thor that he had. And that didn't really translate to anything late game. I think Camazotz might carry on a little bit better throughout the game. So we'll have to see if his decision-making changes up. But I actually think it's the mid lane pick there, the Kukulkan that's coming through, that might change it a little more. Janus, I don't think I said his name at any point while we were talking about the after the game. He just didn't feel impactful, didn't do anything. Kukulkan was bigger there. I think that matchup might be the bigger turning point.
Well, it's still a Janus. They just flip here, so it's going to be Cuckoo for Pikarino and Janus for the Papis here. I see a little bit of surprise on your face. Are you taken back that we're seeing another Janus here?
I'm really just kind of wondering where their mentality is here on the side of the Papis. He's got good damage. I don't mind him. If you play him well, he can set up a lot. But he just doesn't bring the same things to the table that you're going to see out of Kukulkan. Specifically, the ult Kukulkan has in the Tornado, the damage is just too good to overlook. And I'm not sure they're going to have it. Granted, they now have the Chulainn, who is someone who was banned out last game, maybe a little more aggression as the late game goes on, along with the Thor, so they have more setup. But Czechia is going to have to do a lot to make this Janus look good.
Well, Helen Chernobog round out the final 2 bans for the Pikarinoobs. Jingwei rounds out the Papis bans. They're on her. That opens up the door for him. Thanatos locked in as well.
I'm really liking what Pikarinoobs have done here. I think Thanatos is going to be very good for putting a lot of pressure early on against that Janus. Again, maybe shut him down, a little less going on over there. It also applies, solo lane anytime he wants to go for the gank. And late game is just a stun machine and execute machine as well. Can help burn through Chulainn as well as now the Cerberus. I really like what they've picked up. Again, a lot of it's going to be execution based, but admittedly, the Papis, they seem to have a little bit less of a power curve.
What do you maybe look at then on the Papis to get you into this game and maybe grab you the win?
I think my eyes are going to Warchi again. I mean, it comes down to it. Like,
why not?
He's not going to be able to rotate as easily without the Chernobog as he was last game, so early game fights maybe not as strong, but Hachiman's good. He's good on Hachiman. With that and the Kukulkan, it could be a winning factor.
Well, the Papis take game 1. Pikarinoobs looking to answer back here in game 2. John Finch, let's get it started.
Been a close one so far, Dave, and I expect that to keep going here in game number 2. Still Finch and aggro here as you go into Pikarinoobs up against the Papis. And this time, no hell or anything like that to try and worry about. But we are seeing another Kukulkan. And is this worth talking about something? He's getting valued more masked. Played him in the jungle the other day.
Yeah.
And now we got Kukulkan support. Are we just going to be seeing more of this guy?
I don't know, man. I mean, we saw Kukulkan support, what was that, season 5, beginning of season 5 or season 6. One of the more recent seasons, we saw a lot of Kukulkan support at the very beginning. I just don't think it's that good, to be honest with you. I mean, Mystical Male getting buffed makes people give him another look. He got a buff, and that makes him get another look for a lot of players. I just don't think it's strong enough to warrant all this. I mean, if you think he's good, put him in solo and call it a day is what I would say.
We'll see if Dracomariano will make it work. He was so critical to their win last game on that Odin performance. See if he can make as much happen with this Kukulkan this time. Rapio is on this Thanatos, who I was wondering if we might see a bit more of. Towards the end of last year, we saw Thanatos getting picked up because he could just build boots right away, didn't have to build Assassin's Blessing so often, was sustained off those camps in a lot of cases. But looks like Rapio's still picking it up here.
I think that it can be very, very strong, for sure. Heart Seeker was such a great itemization tool for Thanatos in particular to get. If you want to talk about ability assassins who fell off towards the late game, certainly Thanatos comes to mind as one of those. And so getting a huge late game power item in that spot, he procs it on 3 of his 4 abilities. His 4th ability just makes you feel like you're doing a ton of damage anyways, and that Scent of Death, that even if it doesn't proc the Heart Seeker. So I think it's a pick that we will see more of, because I think players are starting to realize that it isn't even that bad in the late game anyways, even without this.
Yeah, executes feel good there too. Plus, you can still do really good damage when that Heart Seeker has to come back to form. Another pick I think we are going to be seeing a lot more of now is this Xing for Mizzega over here in the support position. Just a lot of changes here for him. Xing feels so valuable, and Bird beats so well too. Do you like that we're seeing more of the Xing pick?
In my ranked games, no, because I don't want to play against it. But in competitive, yes, this god is nuts. So it's crazy that it took this long to really get picked up and understood that it was very strong. It got a lot of popularity right around the World Championships last year, and it felt long overdue at that point. I think he's just one of the strongest Guardians in the entire game.
Rapio just kind of hanging out trying to grab this Alpha Harpy. That's on the Chaos side. We did strip away some farm from the Papis, but not the biggest deal in the world. Good use of his time, though. Not really a lot up on the map. Speed is about to spawn for both these guys, so they'll probably head back towards those relatively soon. But now the mid lane's got to wonder where this Thanatos is, too. I think that's not bad presence from Rapio over there in the early.
Speaking of gods that we're starting to see more of that we may or may not have expected, a lot of Janus as of late. And I was wondering if people were going to start picking him up because Chronos Pendant got a buff, so immediately you're thinking, okay, what gods really abuse cooldown well? Janus certainly near the top of that list. But I still just don't think this pick is consistent enough for me to really like it in every single draft. I mean, if you're Whirlwind or another Janus specialist, sure, that's one thing, but I just think that it's so inconsistent the vast majority of the time for even the best mid laners in the entire world that if you aren't a Janus main, there are other gods that abuse cooldown really well that you can pick. I think that gods like Agni we haven't seen at all. I think that I'd be excited to see some of him. Kukulkan, I agree, is the strongest mid lane mage right now, but I think there is some room for experimentation with the current builds and where we're going with this move away from Obsidian Shard, more towards Charon's Coin. I think that Kukulkan and Merlin and Janus are not the only gods that are worth picking in the mid lane right now.
Just kind of can feel that way sometimes, but you're right, it's so open in the mid lane about how you want to build, which gods do you want to play, how do you want to play in the mid lane, like how much are you splitting that farm and how much are you keeping the mid laner by themselves. A lot of the jungle shrine responsibility falls to the mid laners as the jungler is off doing other things too. It's a really open position right now as USB narrowly avoids getting grabbed by that Stygian Torment, but still had the ultimate too. Likely was not in a ton of danger, though. With that rotation from Markus, maybe he would have been.
Could have been, for sure. I mean, if I'm looking at the Papis draft and I'm trying to find something else in the mid lane that might have been better, I think Discordia's in a really good spot right now, and if you want to play aggressively with your Kukulkan support, give him disco passes and let him go to work. You know, he can then 2v1 pretty easily in the early stages of the game. The fact that you can get full CDR and not lose a whole lot of power in the first three items, cooldown boots, Chronos Pendant, Spear of Desolation, what gods abuse that well, Discordia comes to mind for me.
This was a risky call from Mizzega. Kukulkan certainly wants to fight when he's about to make the rage transformation happen, but if he can force it out, that's good too. USB rotating into this fight a bit early, gets decent poke on the Markus, but can't afford to stick around, so that's about it for that little skirmish, unless Chekio, or rather Pikarino, wants a little bit more here with this Kukulkan. Mizzega does use the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel to pull one member back. That's the Thanatos ultimate too. A lot expended over this little middle skirmish.
And looks like Markus went to the sky just in case Rapio did decide to dunk down. So three ultimates used, one on each side, but no kills end up happening. Beads burned
beads, at least,
on a Chekio is the big one for sure. But it's Janus. I mean, as long as Chekio plays well enough, you really shouldn't be in any danger at all.
Through space and time, CC immunity on command usually should be pretty good to get him out of most of those spots. But this is a bit slower throughout the early game than what I would have expected with the Kukulkan support, with the Thanatos, and with the Thor, all this ability to move around the map so effectively, even an Anhur in that long lane, potentially for some action too. But so far, things really have not resulted in too many more kills. I expect that to pick up, especially with the two blinks picked up on the side of Pikarinoobs. They're definitely looking to be aggressive.
I mean, this Kukulkan support, you kind of want to go aggressive early, but it doesn't have to be level 2, level 3.
Sure.
It can be level 7, level 8, around that area where he gets his boots and feels very strong at that point. But Kukulkan's one of those gods that in solo lane, when you fall behind, you feel next to worthless because he doesn't bring that much to a team fight outside of just damage and displacement. But the displacement isn't great. It's unreliable because you need to be transformed at that time. Draco seems to be doing a good job of keeping his rage meter where he wants it though. That's a big thing for Kukulkan players. Is am I entering fights at about 80 rage? 85 is where you transform, so you want to be in that range so that you can transform at a moment's notice, but not just end up transforming randomly while you're walking through the jungle just by getting hit by a minion or something.
Dracomariano doing a good job of that so far. I think that's how we've seen Mizzega. Every time he sees Dracomariano kind of throwing some damage at him, trying to see if he can throw that timing off on that rage transformation, but Draco has done a good job throughout this early game Last game rather, we were talking about Davy not seeming to love these crit builds in particular, and I wonder if picking up this Anhur kind of signals that more. He certainly can build it, but Anhur so much of the time likes to just go into these power builds since he can do so much damage with his Desert Fury. Maybe this signaling that Davy really is not that sold on the crit build.
Maybe. I mean, he's got plenty of damage output for ultimates like this, but that ultimate does not land for Pikarino. Maybe a little bit in the middle of, you do have an upwards trajectory right there. Maybe it went underneath him. That timing just a little bit off, it seemed.
Maybe so, but that is a combination that should work oftentimes for this team. The CC from the Xing into that ultimate from the Kukulkan. If you don't have beads, it's very difficult to get out of that one. So I know this first one might have been a bit of a hiccup, but expect more of that throughout the game as Markus takes to the sky. USB has over-committed on the Camazotz. The CC chain too strong, and there's your first blood for the Papis.
Easy kill for Markus, and that's first blood for the Papis. And it's really just making sure that as soon as you land that dunk, you don't waste any time, because if Camazotz can get into that bat out of hell, it stops a lot of your kill potential very, very quickly. He just buys too much time in that ultimate for you to really be able to chase him down effectively, though he was pretty far up in that lane, basically hugging Creed's tower line.
When you go that far forward up against something like Thor, you will get punished for it. I wonder if, I mean, again, that magic damage physical split in the solo lane could end up factoring in here, as both ultimates traded out from these hunters. Davy, though, on the losing end of that trade, especially with Draco nearby in the jungle. But I wonder if that split in the damage ends up hurting. As Dracomariano wants to loop around, Davy could be in trouble, but he's got backup coming in the form of Pikarino, as well as Mizzega rotating over too. That forces Draco to back off.
Not even close to his transformation either. If he was about to transform, I think that's a fine dive to make, but without it, it makes it harder.
Davy does get caught by that knockup from Dracomariano, and he dunks him. There's that damage you were mentioning earlier on. And there's 4 members of the Poppy ready to come flying in from stage right. Unfortunately, not much more to find there. Ultimate comes through again. Pikarino cannot quite find it.
Yeah, I like the idea. I think he had a window to land it. It looked just a little bit wide right to me. I think that he may have been able to find them, though that's a really small window in between the 2 portals.
Yeah.
Of course, your damage, you can't be hit by new damage sources when going through those portals, so small window, good idea. It's such a low cooldown ultimate. You've already got 10% CDR. I don't have a problem throwing it out there. It just looks a little bit wide right to me.
I like it. I feel like we don't see it that often, right? It's the Kukulkan trying to just cover the Janus portal paths.
Yep.
So that, when they're trying to escape, he'll be able to hit him at some point in there. But it looks like that's twice now that I'd wager Pikarino's just had some unfortunate timing. Those are tough shots, and you're not going to be able to get all of them, but I like that he's been a bit loose with them on this Kukulkan. It doesn't do you any good if you're just sitting.
Completely agree. He already has his ultimate back up anyways.
Markus considering another gank on the USB. This time, though, the dunk doesn't land. Bat out of hell still available. He'll go ahead and use that. Should be able to get out of any relative danger with that ultimate.
That's exactly what we were talking about in the last gank. If you land it, it's a kill. If you miss, it's not. But you're still it's still worth your time to try it out.
Good damage on Rapio. That should be it for this fight here in the middle lane, though. They're lurking nearby. Good wall! Cuts off Rapio, and that means there's really nowhere for him to go there. Dracomariano wants to keep this fight going, though. Mizzega forced to go to the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel to try and regroup back with the rest of the squad. And they're back underneath the Tier 1 tower. You know, Brian, we were having a conversation about how open it is for the mid lanes, but there is some variance in these Hunter builds. Bloodforge for Warchi as opposed to Devourer's Gauntlet for Davy.
Yeah, this has been a big debate as of late among Hunters. Which way do you want to go? And Davy, I wonder if he feels like his team is falling behind. He needs the power right now. Can't really afford to wait around until he stacks up those Devo buffs.
They give up the chase on Chekio. Mizzega tries to come back to help Pikarino instead. Does not get there anywhere near in time, and Creed just gets a free kill. Up 4-0 now are the Poppies, and Davy under pressure goes in the Desert Fury and has to use beads, but does stay alive and wants to help out with Rapio, who's on the chase. The ult doesn't land, and Warchi gets deleted.
No beads are going to help you in that situation. Rapio barrel stuffs the scythe, and pretty easy first kill for Pikarinoobs. They have played a little bit sloppy so far in my mind, but Draco maybe trying to return the favor.
Did you see that scythe? A lot of damage coming out from Rapio. Great transformation timing, though, for Dracomariano. Bails him out of that one. Certainly could have been in a lot more trouble there, but is able to make it back out. But I know you're talking a bit about the timing on when you choose Bloodforge, when you choose Devourer's Gauntlet.
Yeah.
It feels like you have some opportunities to kind of react to how the game's going.
Yeah, I misspoke. I was saying that maybe Davy wants the power spike now. I meant Warchi, of course, the one who picked up the Bloodforge. Davy is going for the Devourer's Gauntlets, which is slightly lower power, but it's not by much. I believe it's 65 power when fully stacked in comparison to Bloodforge is 75, but you do get more life steal. You get 24% if my memory serves, as opposed to the 15% that I believe Bloodforge is. So yes, Bloodforge is a relative passive, but the Devo Glove sustain matters.
Mizzega trying to lock down Dracomariano. I think we're starting to realize this Kukulkan is not as tanky as he might have liked. Just Gauntlet of Thebes with really no stacks on it yet. Chekio avoids the telegraphed ultimate from Pikarino. Markus took to the sky on Thor, but he's so far away. I don't know if he can find a target. He'll turn towards Mizzega, and Chekio came right through a portal as well. Well played by Papis to catch the Xing out.
It seemed like the rest of Pikarinoobs had the memo that they were backing up at that moment, but Mizzega a little bit too slow to get out. Doesn't path the right way to get away from that Thor ult distance-wise. Yes, he would have been going the exact same way as Pikarino, but Pico was already out by a good amount at that point. I think that Mizzega certainly could have pathed better and maybe survived.
The Papis playing well around Markus in particular. 3-0-1. Looks like both teams have been able to make good use of Thor in the early game, as we expected everybody to be able to do. It's just a question of, can you keep that going? Can you create enough distance in the early game for your team to be able to take that into the late?
Looks like, I mean, you look at what Rapio was doing on it last time around, wasn't able to transition that particularly late, but certainly had some potential to try and make some plays, just a couple execution errors.
Yeah.
Think back to that mid lane ult where he tries to land on Warchi, who had no relics and just couldn't quite find him in time. If Markus can be a little bit cleaner on the execution, I think there's certainly an opportunity, but Thanatos is a pretty tough matchup for Thor. He can interrupt you, he can out-trade you pretty effectively. Rapio can continue to stay close in this matchup, especially once he gets beads at level 12. This is where Rapio is more vulnerable because he is still susceptible to getting full-on Thor.
Should be pulled back into the tower and take one shot, but still has his ultimate. Shouldn't be in too much danger if he ever needs to. He can hit that eject button. I do want to give Rapio at least a little bit of credit. Sometimes the ult can be a bit hard to find when they're right underneath your launch point.
Yep.
Kind of aiming right back down. That one can feel a bit tricky, so I'm certainly with him. USB was jumped on by Creed over on the right-hand side, but still able to get back towards safety. So not too much trouble from there. But now the wall, hammer here too. Finally, they'll force the bat out of hell from him.
That's great play around a buff. Even if you don't get the invade, you still know that player wants to go and pick it up, so you can prevent that pretty easily and force out that ultimate. That was nicely done.
Markus took to the sky. Mizzega might be the target once more. A two-man dunk, and Rapio never gets to play Smite. He's removed, but flattened his Markus. Pikarino right there to make it a 1-for-1 jungle for jungle.
The beads were good for Markus, and if he uses Aegis properly in that moment, maybe he ends up living, but still, you want to talk about that vulnerability for the Thanatos before he's able to get level 12 and back to base in time. No beads for Rapio, and great identification by Markus. A very accurate ultimate, and certainly plenty of damage output, especially when you've got an extra player right next to him. That's just an extra chain lightning bounce that Rapio's going to hit in that moment.
It's huge with that extra damage there from Markus to shut down Rapio. Rapio, as you mentioned, was just in an unfortunate timing. Remember, I mentioned that he and Mizzega went blink earlier on. I'm a bit surprised this Thanatos hadn't been focused more often, honestly, with all the CC at the disposal of the Papis. But he does eventually take that second death, and it's so frustrating. That's right at the tail end of that extra vulnerability you took, and he ends up getting punished.
You hit level 12, you just haven't back to base yet, and immediately you get punished for it. That's unfortunate.
And you got to keep the vision shards timing in the back of your head as well, too.
At least for this patch. In
yes,
future patches, that will be changed. But in this patch exactly, these players are playing on, that cooldown that you buy, that relic that you buy level 12 inherits your current vision shard cooldown. So Rapio backs to base, buys beads. It doesn't have them available until the 70 seconds or whatever his vision shard timer was up. I don't think he's going to get punished for it, but that is something that these players should be thinking about at this point for sure.
That's right. They don't have to worry about too much going on for it, but it is one thing you got to keep in mind. Right around level 12, probably don't want to place your vision, your ward, if you're going to be backing and want your relic right away, because it'll still happen. So just one more thing to keep in the back of your mind. But this game's still relatively close. Papis only have about a 2,000 gold lead or so, really not even, 1,500. The experience is much more than that. And Pikarinoobs might be able to even it up entirely. They have popped the frenzy, and they're going to be looking for the objective. Warchi doesn't get there in time, and Pikarinoobs, right as I mentioned it, even the game back up.
Yeah, Papis should be like, man, that feels really familiar. It's almost like exactly what we did to Pikarinoobs, and I don't think you can really put that much blame on the Papis. If they're going to invest an upgraded Frenzy in order to get that done, they're going to invest it.
Big. I like what they were trying to go for there. The knock-up off Kukulkan into through space and time. It doesn't quite land. Now they just have to commit to this with brute force. But great timing on it. Markus waits out. Thanatos lands, gets Pikarino, but still dies to the tower shot. That makes it 1-for-1 jungle for mid. Still looking for a bit more action is Pikarinoobs. So they chase down the middle lane. But now Mizzega has to recognize that he's got to come back towards the tier 1 tower. Caught by the Stygian Torment and brought right back out to the waiting hands of the Papis.
But Xing just too tanky. It's impossible to kill this guy. Overpowered USB still wants to go in. Mizzega playing with fire a little bit.
Does get caught. Davey gets caught in the portal, but has the leap available to jump back out. This is a dive from USB. He misses the first one, finds the second, but now he's on the full retreat path, avoids falling into the portal. Watch the turnaround with that Devour, and should be able to get it, but a good Aegis buys him some time. They get the stun as well. Rapio finally cleans up that kill on the Czechia, but now he's got to run for his life, and Creed won't let him.
Overpowered USB may have overstayed as well. Devour still up, and remember that was a big buff that lets him get a real leap distance out of that Devour. And that Camazotz sustain is just nuts.
Isn't it?
He eats so many tower shots there and is still able to survive because he just had a vampire bats ticking on the Czechio during that entire siege.
Warchi in some trouble. This just was not for him, was it? Pikarino ends up getting that kill. And man, assassins are the class that I struggle with playing the most. You really have to be able to know your timings on when you can jump back in, how much sustain you have. Camazotz is one of those gods, man, that if you master that timing, it can feel so hard to play against him.
Especially in solo lane because he's just so tanky.
Yeah.
In jungle, a lot of Camazotz is just insta-kill, right? I mean, they blink in, auto one, auto, and you have to Aegis the 2, and if they just hold the 2, you're dead no matter what you do, basically. It's very, very difficult to play around Camazotz jungle, but Camazotz solo is difficult from a different perspective. It is understanding how many rotations am I going to need to get this kill? How many rotations of their abilities can I take? What are the big ones that I need to make sure I'm dodging? And Overpowered USB looked very comfortable in that moment. Was able to get an Aegis and still survive.
Pikarinoobs playing around the objectives well. You're right to bring this up. It's the exact inverse of game 1, isn't it? Where the Papis were struggling in the fights, but playing around the objectives better. Now it's Pikarinoobs who are controlling the Fury and now the Pyromancer.
And what's the one consistent factor in both those team compositions? It's Kukulkan. It frees you up so much. And it's not like you're missing anything in the team fight mid either. It does that well too.
Dracomariano flicks in, finds a 2-man knockup. Mizzega keeps the 2 members underneath the tier 1. He thought about throwing them under the tier 2, but he had low HP guys back there, gets them away. Pikarino drops the ultimate. Does not find much, but Beads comes out from Thor. That means the dunk from Rapio can come in, and he does chew up Markus, but pays for it with his own life. Now Mizzega stuck in no man's land. Does get some backup as USB comes to the back line that lets Mizzega out, but now this Camazotz is stuck, has to go into battle to hell, and wants the trade up against Warchi, finds 2, but a shell comes out to prevent the 3rd, and that's all they wrote for USB.
Really nice shell coming out from Dracomariano, and a good portal from Czechio. Another good portal from Czechio. Davies, Beads, and Aegis consumed, and I still don't like his odds.
That's both relics, and he's gonna fall to Creed, who keeps up the chase underneath the tier 2. Mizzega might be able to punish him, but a good portal from Czechio. That's heads up, gets him back out of there. A huge fight, 3-for-1 for the Papis.
And that's 3 great portals in a row from Czechio. 2 on players back-to-back, and then a heads-up portal to get Overpowered USB, or excuse me, Creed right out of danger underneath that tier 2 tower in mid. Pikarinoobs are very, very good at these little skirmishes. They're fighting fairly well, but it feels like the Papis are consistently the initiators. They're consistently the ones dictating how and where we are going to be fighting, and Pikarinoobs are doing a good job of scrambling to catch up and trying to match that pace and provide answers to the questions that Papis are posing. But it's hard to win whenever you're the one always on the back foot and responding. At some point, Pikarinoobs are going to have to try and take a fight, and it's probably just going to be around an objective because that's where they've been focused. They've used a relic slot on Mizzega exclusively for these objectives so far. Maybe that upgraded Frenzy being used in a full 5-on-5 team fight's enough to turn it in their favor.
Fury should be up in about 10 seconds, and already the Papis are in aggressive positioning for this fight. This is all about trying to establish poke, trying to force some relics, some ultimates. That way you can come back and have a favorite fight at the Fury, but this is a sick fight from the Papis through space and time. Has already flattened Davey, landing in the back is Markus, and he wants to grab one more. Rapio comes in to provide some support,
Wow, that was
and
sick.
USB actually turns it around. Rapio gets Markus and one more. Warchi does find USB though, it's 2 for 2 so far. This could have been a much better fight for Papis.
Yeah, the first 2 seconds of that fight looked like a full-on deicide, a 5-for-0, but a really nice up-down by Rapio just to interrupt Markus and stun him out of that spin. It bought Pikarino enough time. He had good Aegis usage in that moment as well. A good ultimate from him in order to heal everybody off and deal enough damage.
This is a good blink to the backline. Chekio never stood a chance with the synergy there between Rapio and Mizzega. Good news is Warchi, at the very least, evens things up. The slow now on Mizzega, less likely he makes it out as Dracomariano gets that kill. Now 4 died on the side of Pikarinoobs. Poppy still had 2 standing, and they still got Warchi. Their chances on this objective are not 0, even with Pikarino nearby.
Still, Pikarino doesn't have that ultimate up quite yet. Good body block from Dracomariano, and Warchi's just doing a lot so far in these team fights. Davey has got to find a way to try and match the damage output that Warchi is providing, because Warchi's been a huge factor so far.
Pikarino doing everything he can just to stall this objective. Ultimate does get one knock up. It ends up landing onto the Cerberus, but now he's cut inside the breath. Manages to finally get away from that as USB goes up to the air with the bat of the hell, but can't find much more there either. There's a long, prolonged battle all around this Oni Fury.
And no hell this time around for the Poppies to help out, but they've got Markus coming back with that ultimate. Doesn't have a great target, should just take the win and go along his way. Oni Fury goes the Poppies' way, and that's just good use of their time, and really Warchi being able to kite around, stay alive, because if that's Chekio in that spot, they know that they don't, if they just waste a little bit of time, Pikarinoobs will keep the Poppies off that Oni Fury, but because this Bloodforge pickup and all the damage that Warchi has, he can tank that Oni Fury basically forever and allow Poppies to create enough space for him to finish it.
And a couple of housekeeping notes around this Fury. These Oni minion waves, much easier to see nowadays on your mini-map. You might be familiar from your own games, but you'll see them, kind of those white dots, I suppose, on the wave. That's the Oni wave that's coming on down. So you can keep track of where that's at. Another thing is the Gold Fury itself is not in that respawn pool for the Furies beyond the 20-minute mark. So now we're just looking at the Oni and the Primals on these respawns, all the ones that should be more relevant late game theoretically.
And I love that change because it makes it really, really impactful to make sure that you have an eye on that Fury. Is it Primal Fury? Maybe we can let that one go, but maybe not. I mean, these Fire Giant fights sometimes drag out so long. Getting 14% more damage and mitigation at the exact same time can easily be the difference between securing a Fire Giant and losing it, or losing a fight because you took too much damage to the Fire Giant versus the opposition. Those are going to be critical, but Oni waves are the big one. Those are the ones that make you really respect what the enemy team is doing.
Markus has taken to the sky. They wanted Davey. I wonder if he sensed it because he leaked in. That's his speeds forced out as well. But when 4 members rotate over, all you can do is hope to buy some time, and Davey bought a bit as Poppies grabbed the pick.
And with Pikarino kind of floating over left, that means that there's just no way Pikarinoobs have anywhere near enough damage to actually try and do the Fire Giant when they see 4 members over on the left-hand side. And now Pikarino is doing the exact same thing that just happened to Davey.
Trying to come over and at least clear the wave, but a great portal use from Chekio. That means Pikarino has no chance to survive. I believe that was Rapio who took to the sky with the ultimate. He's exited on the right-hand side. This fight's still going a bit, but that's just Creed and Mizzega. They might not want to stick around. They're really trying to get towards Rapio. Markus has cut off the escape path, and now Creed is here to help out too, trying to ignore the Xing Chen, and Markus gets the kill credit. Rapio ends up falling.
Smart call by Markus to use that Aegis because it denies the healing to Rapio, which would have been really critical for him in that moment, where he really needed that just extra boost of HP to try and withstand whatever Creed was about to throw at him.
Mizzega barely makes it out of there, but now Chekio trying to catch up to him again. Can't catch him with the unstable vortex. But I think this is what you mean by some of that inconsistency with Janus, right? It's not that the literal unstable vortex damage is inconsistent. It's that if you want to get really good Janus play like Chekio every game, that's probably just not going to happen, right? This has been almost perfect from him.
He's played very well. I mean, to be second on your team in player damage as Janus is not an easy task, and he's done that well so far. He's been in the right spots. He's had good ultimates. Just a matter of staying that level of consistent as we go, as Markus may have been caught lazy backing. Indeed he will. Overpowered USB easily closing the gap with that bat out of hell.
That's good usage of the ultimate from him as well to avoid that stun duration to make sure he can keep chasing down Markus and find the kill. It's a 5v4 now in favor of Pikarinoobs. They've got just about everyone here by the Fire Giant except for Rapio, who's on the way. Meanwhile, Chekio's not there just yet, and neither is Warchi. They might have to commit some ults to get here. There's the through space in time. The rest of the squad can come up and try and stop Pikarinoobs in their aggression. Trying to move into the back line is Dracomariano. Not sure if he wants to commit. He gets grabbed and pulled back in. He's got to commit now, and Rapio dunks back in for the execute from the sky.
Draco had that war cry ready, that rage form ultimate gives you CC immunity, just didn't use it in time. Really needed it in order to not get picked up by Mizzega. Good hold on the Spirit of the Nine Winds by Pikarino. I think a lot of mid laners probably just toss that ultimate out there because it's guaranteed and probably gets you the kill. But they knew their damage output, and Rapio was clean with the execute.
Fire Giant at half HP now. Creed blinks past to try and force Davy off to stop the DPS on the objective. But it's still leashed. It's still incredibly low. Pikarinoobs are holding on to this one. They've got the secure Fire Giant. And the frenzy at the end probably wasn't necessary, but they secure the objective.
Yeah, that was a little bit concerning though to me, Finch. That's what are we waiting for? You know,
right.
We have Kukulkan ult. What are we worried about in this moment? I mean, you can ult that thing from 2,500 health and kill it. Nothing in this game is going to out-secure you with this draft.
But I want to talk a bit about Markus and Dracomariano's deaths there. They were unnecessary, weren't they? Markus gets picked out. Dracomariano could have likely avoided getting picked up by the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and now they're fighting into a Fire Giant team.
It's a couple of mistakes back-to-back, and that's huge. This is the exact same thing that Pikarinoobs suffered from last game, I think, which is just losing focus a little bit at the wrong time, and the enemy team punishes you accordingly. Pikarinoobs is not a team that you could take lightly if you're the Papis, and I think that they're learning that lesson right now.
Primal Fury goes down to the Papis pretty easily. No one from Pikarinoobs is around to contest. And we talked about how important these late game objectives are, but the ball's still certainly in Pikarinoobs' court. Only about a 4,000 gold difference on the map, and that's with all 3 tier 2 towers still up on the Chaos side. That means that they can just get that gold back just from those towers and basically even this game up with this Fire Giant.
Not guaranteed. I think the Papis are going to at least try and stake some defense on these tier 2s. So they might even want it on the tier 1.
There's the dunk in from Markus. USB's low, caught in the portal and dead. Chekio takes care of him early on this engagement, but a dive into the backline. Everyone's grooved up. The ultimate does hit one. Rapio takes care of Markus, but does get punished on the back end through space and time. Doesn't find anyone, but Chekio showing up again.
Huge ultimate from Pikarino to keep that fight even somewhat even, but still, getting 2 for 1 on a tier 1 tower, not exactly the fight that you want when you've just gotten a Fire Giant to start to regain some momentum. Draco, I said I wasn't a big fan of this Cullen support, but he's done a really good job. Maybe gifted a lead because of some bad decision-making by Pikarinoobs early game, but he certainly made the most of it. He's able to get in there, get a decent initiation, force Pikarinoobs back. Rapio goes in a little bit too deep because he normally has someone right there with him, but overpowered USB got insta-killed off another really good ultimate by Markus.
This has been a really good game here so far, though. Maybe some sloppiness from these players, but it's been close. And remember, just like we talked about yesterday, this format is a lot of SMITE that you got to play, right? So
yep.
We'll give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, I think, in that regard as well. Pyromancer dropped. Creed blinks in. That's the Stygian Torment expended already. Dracomariano finds a 2-man knockup. Not a ton of follow-up off the back, but Chekio goes aggressive into the back line. Still has a portal to escape and narrowly avoids the ultimate from Pikarino. That means Chekio's back out and Papis can reset.
Pikarino's going to have to back him, which is a big loss in DPS for the Pikarinoobs. I mean, that fight really started nicely by Creed, but that's got to be on either Mizzega or someone on Pikarinoobs to let their Kukulkan know that he doesn't need to use that purification beads. That's a huge cooldown.
Rapio takes to the sky, does land down, but Markus CC immune. Cannot say the same for Warchi. We're going to have to see you in 58 seconds, bud. That's a respawn timer. Markus comes down on the backside of the fight. I think Davy was forced into Aegis out of fear, but the rest of Papis are in the full retreat right now. Pikarinoobs with great positioning, considering re-engaging. Rapio blinks past. It's Chekio that they're looking for, and Mizzega gets the kill credit there. They found 2, and Pikarinoobs, whatever their name is, they're going to keep on going to try and grab this fight.
Good ultimate from Creed, going to bring 2 underneath that tower, including Davy, who really can't afford to be tanking that, but the rest of the team is pretty healthy at this point. And Creed is going to have to back it up. That's a tier 2 tower now down. Fire Giant falling off of the Pikarinoobs right now, so they can easily reset, spend some of this gold that they just got, and get ready for the next Fire Giant fight. They're in a pretty good spot.
Not the way you traditionally go about getting your 2 towers off the back of a Fire Giant, but
No.
Pikarinoobs do eventually get them, and that has virtually evened up this game, at least in terms of gold. You can kind of just see it from the itemization at this point. 6,000 experience, that's not a big deal. Everyone's level 20, it's actually no deal. This game virtually deadlocked, so we delve down into the items to try and find our differences. And we're seeing more of this now. The Staff of Mirrodin for these mages. I think we saw Chekio get 2 portals in that last fight to get out.
Love it on Janus. You get so much versatility. I mean, every single ability that you could use with Staff of Mirrodin, getting 2 of them feels really, really strong. 2 thresholds is really underrated because that's a massive slow that boosts your damage by your Unstable Vortex by quite a bit. 2 Unstable Vortexes. I mean, you can ult through a team fight, 2 kind of fade away as you're going from portal to portal, and it's very difficult to match that damage output. It's 10% pen, it's CDR, it gets him to that max CDR rank that he really wants on Janus. I love Staff of Mirrodin on Janus. I think Merlin can use it pretty effectively as well. I'm starting to come around the corner on that one. Still waiting to see what other mages I like it on, but certainly Janus is one of them.
It can feel a bit bad to build. I don't love sitting at the tier 2 of it, but when you've got this item finished, man, it feels really good in some specific cases. So Chekio, I think, showing us some of those extra applications. Creed goes in first, forces the ultimate out from Mizzega. Way in the back line is Dracomariano looking for Pikarino. He's got backup coming in, but Aegis immune to a lot of the damage. All you can do is buy time as Dracomariano claims the Kukulkan in this fight. IDavy is quite low as well, being pinned. A double kill now for our Kukulkan support, by the way, not from the short lane, and they want a bit more. Now starting to dive the tier 2, locking down Mizzega, forcing the bat out of hell through space and time, clips through as well as Papis starting to look good.
Blanks needed in order to escape for Pikarinoobs, and the backline dive for Papis has just been much more effective than that of the Pikarinoobs. I mean, these blink initiations by Draco and by Creed have been very, very difficult for the backliners to really stay away from. I think they're just getting a little bit too grouped up. They're both getting hit by the same initiations. That's a big problem. And Markus is able to really punish you if you don't have purification beads, which you kind of need to use, if you get hit by that Stygian Torment ultimate. You really don't have a choice. Maybe Xing and Camazotz can do a better job of forcing the damage dealer from Papis back so you don't need to bead that Stygian Torment, but Cerberus has so much damage on his own that if you guarantee him a stun off that Stygian Torment and a fully charged 2, I mean, you're not feeling good about that either.
Warchi's got to be careful here, though. His life so important this late in the game. His Aegis, too. That's been forced out basically just by Mizzega and USB. That's a big win for them. Certainly did not have to happen. One more thing I want to ask about, though, this Erendite we're seeing picked up for Rapio. This has kind of brought Mercury a little bit back, too, as the Oni Fury gets grabbed by Pikarinos. Do you think we're going to be seeing more of Erendite and gods who can build it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this item just gives you so much damage. It's actually insane. I mean, you get 75 power from it, 10% CDR, and then you get to do 40 plus 30% of your physical power on the next ability. So would you like to add 30% scaling to Death Scythe?
Yes.
Buy this item. That's basically what you should ask yourself every time. On Mercury, it's a slightly different calculation because the movement speed factors in as well, so it's even more damage than that. But would I like to add 30% scaling to an ability that I can easily hit once my ultimate is down? Let's say I stun them with my ultimate and then Death Scythe them and hit them for 120% of my power. That seems pretty good to me.
Sounds good to me, too. Rapio certainly liking it. He's gone full glass cannon with this Thanatos build. Sometimes you see these junglers itemize into some kind of prots. Really, the closest thing he gets is a Bloodforged shield on the back of a kill, right? And I think that might be the right mentality for these Thanatos. That's what Heartseeker was trying to open up, was for these ability-based assassins to stay all in 100% potential throughout the entirety of the game.
And he certainly has it. I mean, we're talking blink, auto, 1 auto. You're basically killing a backliner.
Mizzega's already really low. He drops the Frenzy just to make sure he gets it off. Creed's way in the back of the fight, and Markus took to the sky. Mizzega finally gets cleaned up, but Rapio has gotten a good kill onto Warchi, making a double kill as he's gotten Dracomariano as well. USB blinks in and takes down Markus. It's just Chekio and Creed left now, and David's got autos for days, pumping on the back of Creed, and USB gets the double kill, a 4-for-1 in favor of Pikarinoobs.
That should be game, Finch, because there's Oni waves coming up this right-hand side. Remember, Rapio went over.
Oh, you're right.
And did that Oni Fury just a little bit ago. That's a strong wave. It's only about half Oni, so not fully there, but you've got a 4-on-1 for quite some time. Only concern is they don't have a lot of frontline. Overpowered USB can do some, but still an assassin at the end of the day.
Well, that's what we were talking about in terms of wanting damage, right? Rapio gets the job done for him, and now Pikarinoobs have a chance to maybe put this game to bed. It's just Chekio trying to defend up against 4, Titan down to half HP, down to a quarter. This is easy for Pikarinoobs. 36 minutes in, and they tie up the set.
I mean, that fight goes so differently because the backline dive for the Papis doesn't work that time.
Yep.
The last 3-4 fights, iDavy and Pikarino were each taken out very, very quickly in those fights, and so it's very easy for the Papis to just steamroll the fight after that. That time, it's Rapio and overpowered USB getting double kills each. Their backline dive works way, way better. Both backliners from their team also end up surviving, and that gives them enough damage to walk it down and end the game.
But aren't you starting to see it, man? This early game doesn't seem to mean quite as much as we thought of in previous seasons. You really are going to have a crack at it in this later mid to late game stage trying to win these games. This time really was just 1 or 2 team fights. Pikarinoobs were able to seal this game up.
I mean, neither of these leads that we've seen so far have been exorbitant. I
Sure.
mean, they've been small leads. I think that there is still a world where you can get these big leads in the early game and just snuff out the enemy team quickly, but it needs to be stronger leads than what we've seen.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5,000, that's just not going to cut it anymore. You're going to need a little bit more than that. Game number 2 means we're all tied up. Plenty more coming on the backside of this break.